mentioned in the kickoff just then. So yeah, feel free to come off mute or drop it in the chat with a Q and we can come to it at the end, whatever feels best. All right. Well, I might get started. So I'm Britt. As just mentioned, I work at Atlassian in talent brand, which is like recruitment marketing and employer brand. So pretty much what it's like to work at Atlassian. I market that and talk about all of those things. So working on the website, lots of LinkedIn stuff, lots of events, lots of networking, lots of people. I'm based in Dubbo, New South Wales, so a bit out in the sticks. I'd love if you could pop in the chat where you're from and also what industry you're looking to join as well, or what your discipline is. My background is marketing and HR. I went to uni in Newcastle, which was lots of fun if anyone's been up there or at uni there. And then I went to UTS and did a bit of postgrad in digital marketing. So that's a bit about me. Yeah, we'd love to see what you guys are all up to. Gold Coast, Brisbane, nice and sunny and shine up there. I hope Melbourne, Sydney. Is anyone from the country? Perth, not quite the country, but maybe more country than Sydney and Melbourne. Great. Awesome to see those coming through. Thanks, guys. So yeah, we'll jump in. A quick agenda, what we're running through today. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for popping those in the chat. Keep them coming through. I can see them still going. We'll run through some communication styles. I want to have quite an interactive session today. So we're going to do a quick quiz and then talk about a few different communication styles. Working with others, so adapting your communication style to work with lots of different people. Building your network, I saw a couple of comments in the main chat about that as well. So hopefully we can cover that off for you. So finding some like-minded people to connect with. And then we'll just touch on social media and a bit of a LinkedIn 101 at the end. And yeah, we've got questions after that too. So yeah, cool. Let's jump into it. All right, so communication styles. As you probably are well aware, there are lots of different communicators, lots of different people that we work with. I've got a quiz, and I'm just thinking now that I might have to stop sharing 1 second to share this link with you, which I'll drop in the chat. Yeah, lots of different people that we work with, lots of different communicators, and all wonderful. But you know, different strokes for different folks. What I found kind of coming into the workforce, I'm only 25. I don't know if only 25 or 25 is old. I keep seeing all these TikToks about what age people think is old, and 1999 seems to come up a lot. But anyway, yes, if you want to fill out this quiz that James, there we go, that I'm dropping in the chat now. It's 5 questions, and it'll just run you through a couple of different communication types. There's only 4. There's lots of different communication styles, and there's lots of different quizzes and matrices. I've done workshops that are like, you know, a day or 2, which is very long to be talking about how to talk, in my opinion. Hopefully this just gives you a quick overview. Sorry, I'm missing the H there. I'll send it through again. If you want to take that quiz. And once you're done, those 5 questions, if you could just drop your communication style in the chat, that would be great. And then we'll run through the 4 of them, and then we'll go from there and discuss a little bit. So I'll just give you all a moment to do that. I think we need some hold music here, James.
This is where my degree in music might come in handy.
I can never work out how to share my Spotify. I'm not very good at it. It always ends up sharing something random. Cool. How's that quiz going? Can everyone access that? Yeah, cool. I'm just dropping those in the comments when you can. That would be great. Oops. I'd like to go back. Oh, there we go. All right, well, I might get started in the interest of time while you're clicking through that. The first one that comes up is connectors. I think a lot of people are connectors by default. I would say this is probably the most common of the 4 types, but you know, maybe we have a different group here today. Connectors typically very careful on the word selection, very positive people. They're very aware of what's being discussed. How's everyone feeling about it? Is there anything that can strengthen rapport? So looking to build relationships is probably a natural default for this type of person. They'll look to build those relationships and show value and appreciate others. Mover communication style. Thanks, Amy. So communicating with connectors, some tips. Acknowledging them personally. Remembering people's names is really important for any type of communication and any building relationships, but to connectors, this is particularly important. Recognizing their consideration of others. I think this is a really kind characteristic and one that we should lean into. Being respectful towards others and showing patience. I think connectors can sometimes get a bit carried away and a bit excited with things. I'm a connector, so I think that is a common theme. Oh, movers and planners. Oh, thinker. Got a connector in there. Thanks, guys. Great. So we'll move on to planners. A couple in there can see. So planners typically have a clear plan. What are next steps? Proven track record. What can we learn from? What is the responsible thing to do? And when do we need to do it by? I think with this group of people, communicating with them, being prepared, giving details, staying on target, being consistent, showing respect and not interrupting. This is a personally very hard thing for me. And I think it's very hard on Zoom as well. It's hard to see those prompts that people might have of when they're about to speak or when they're thinking, and people who are a little bit excited might jump in here. So that's maybe something to be aware of when working with planners and just recognizing their contributions as well. So very outcome orientated people, I would say the planner team are, but very valuable in getting stuff done. Thinkers. Now we have a couple of thinkers in here as well. What are we trying to fix or improve? Is there something here that can be expanded and lead to new ideas? This is a very valuable skill set in solving multiple problems at the same time. Often you'll find in work or even in projects that you're working on, the same solution can apply to lots of different scenarios. And thinkers can really be, despite the other one being called a connector, connectors amongst different teams and sharing those resources, which is incredibly valuable. As you kind of enter the workforce or, you work with others in whatever situation that might be, even if you're working, as a casual barista or in retail, sharing those learnings can be very valuable and a great way to build those relationships. Is there any knowledge to be gained from this topic? Lots of research, lots of learnings, lots of key takeaways. And are we speaking objectively? Is this factual? So some tips around this: skipping the small talk, which I also find very difficult. I love a bit of a chat. Give big picture, give the picture, a big picture, and get to the point. Then you can fill in the details. So I think people talk in different ways. You'll find that some people really zoom out and some people really zoom in. And I think sometimes when you're nervous, you'll often zoom right into all of the details. This is probably a good interview tip as well. When you're talking or interviewing with different organizations, I'd recommend taking a bit of a step back and thinking strategically before diving into all the details. A common mistake, or not necessarily a mistake, but a common oversight when interviewing for roles or feedback that I've heard commonly that people receive is focusing in on all the details and you miss the big picture. And when you focus in on all the details and you've only got a certain amount of time, you'll find that time actually runs out quite quickly. So make sure that people, when you're speaking to them, understand the big picture and where they're going. So very important takeaway for that one. Allowing them time to think before responding. This is a learnt skill for many people and a very, very valuable one. As an impulse talker, I think that it takes a lot of time, just to slow down and have a think, take the step away. One thing that you'll likely learn as well as you work with more thinkers is how much value you can get by actually taking a step back and having a think about, what are we trying to achieve here? What's the problem that we're trying to solve and how do I communicate that effectively? If you're one to jump in with an answer or try and solve the problem in the room, you'll find sometimes you have to talk through the solution and that can take up a lot of time if you've only got a short amount of time. And the other one that I think that can be somewhat confronting if you're not used to working with thinkers is, or if they're more senior than you, this is something that I've found working with lots of thinkers, is misinterpreting their questions as interrogation. Just because they're asking questions doesn't mean that they think that you don't know what you're doing or that you're on the wrong track or anything like that. People are trying to help you. They're not out to get you, or most of the time. I think it's a pretty safe bet. It's not personal, it's just their style of work. So take that consideration. If people are asking you questions and follow-up questions, that's likely because that's how they learn and digest a lot of this information rather than thinking on the fly like others do. Rebecca, I can see your question in there. Clarify big picture versus small details. Great question. Big picture would be the project that you're working on. So setting the scene around what that project actually is or what you're trying to achieve. And the small details might be the tactical things that you're doing to achieve that big outcome. So just making sure that, you outline what you're talking about, what the project's doing, what you're trying to achieve, big picture, and then, small details being the tactical executional part of it. I hope that answers your question. Please let me know if I can expand further and I will jump back into that. I can see a few questions coming in now. I'll pause and come back to these at the end. Thanks for keep them coming though. Movers. Movers typically, how can I make this entertaining, fun and playful? What are the opportunities or alternatives? How can we speed things up and where will there be an instant payoff? This is a helpful profile in that you'll find in very long projects at work, people can get a bit frustrated, things can get a bit muddy, you can lose your way a little bit. Having short-term goals and long-term goals is very, very helpful in showing your progress and working with different stakeholders. People like to see an immediate return, especially if they're giving you, say, budget or time. You'll find that resources isn't just money at work, it's also people. The biggest thing that you need to stand up your project is often people to work with you, whether that be, I don't know, in my world in marketing, that could be a graphic designer or a web developer. But that can look like a lot of different things. So how do you weigh up, those instant payoffs or, quick wins versus the longer term strategy? And everything can be fun. Communicating with movers, use sound bites. Depending on your work style and where you're working, there's lots of different things that this can mean. I think things like Slack are really helpful for this. Dot pointing your information, get to the point, rather than kind of burying your information. I think over time, a lot of people develop a more succinct communication style as they get more senior in their roles or more tenured. When working with senior leaders, you'll notice they're extremely direct. I think on social media, a lot of the time that's kind of, I guess, flicked off as, you're getting a very short email, direct email from a middle-aged leader, I'll say. But I think that is just the development in the communication style and removing the fluff. A lot of value to be learnt there, but still make sure that people feel appreciated and welcomed. Move with them while they multitask. This can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different people. You can always pull people back on track as well. Call out in meetings. We've obviously digressed down this track. Let's zoom back into the whatever we're trying to deliver here. Call that out as you're going on meetings, and you'll observe others do this very well as you work with lots of different people. Allowing options and flexibility and just lighten up, which I think is a nice one. Okay, great. I can see a couple more questions in there. I'll have a look at Emily's. As a thinker, how should we communicate with others so they don't misinterpret our inquiries, interrogation? I feel like that's a big problem that I face. That's a great question, Emily, and I think it's on the receiver as much as it is the asker. So I think that's a fantastic thing to highlight. I think how you frame it is really important. Something that someone taught me a long time ago was the sandwich technique. So say something positive, give something constructive, and then finish with something positive. That can often help. And just the way that you ask the question and, making sure that the language is positive and it's not super direct, I think can help. But sandwich technique was probably the 101 tip that I would have for you there. And the next question there, is it worth trying to classify people during an interview, for example, as being one of these types and how we communicate with them? I wouldn't say that you have time to identify what someone's style is within the 45 minutes interview. I'd try and be considerate of what you're trying to achieve and how you show up. I think you should just set the scene, share your examples, talk clearly and concisely, and ask questions. So I think there's bits of all types. Be mindful of all the different types of profiles here, rather than trying to identify one. And when you're in an interview, you don't need to be thinking, what's this person thinking? You're trying to show up as your best self rather than worrying about how they're showing up. Cool. All right, working with others, how do you ensure that you're meeting the communication needs in any situation? I think Sammy just answered that with that question. But do you have any tips? Pop them in the chat. I mean, the sandwich technique's a good tip. I'd love to see a few suggestions on working with different people, what you found that's worked when meeting new people and building those relationships. Asking lots of questions. Yeah. Cool. I'll leave you guys to populate the chat as you go through. So yes, asking lots of questions, that's a great one. We'll jump into that in a minute. One thing that I found working with lots of people is not necessarily what you say, it's how you present yourself. And that doesn't mean what you're wearing. So this is a quote from How to Make Friends and Influence People, which is the book that I think is being given away at the end of the call, thanks to James and the Teach for Australia team. But a quote from that, from Dale Carnegie, the author, is the expression on one's face that wears on one's face is far more important than the clothes one wears on one's back, especially on Zoom. You can obviously see how I'm expressing myself, but you can't see that I'm wearing comfy pants, for example. How you're actively listening is directly represented in what your face is doing. There's lots of things that people call it resting bitch face or whatever you want to call it, or they can see if you're on your phone. They can see, I obviously wear glasses. People can see the reflection of you scrolling in your glasses. There's all these little things that people don't really think about, and when you're presenting, it's very obvious that you're not engaged. So I think that would be a highlight for me. It's not just what you say, it's what your face looks like. I am very guilty of this. So yeah, be mindful of what your face is doing. So setting up your conversation for success. Oh, thanks. I love that book too. Asking lots of questions. People love talking about themselves. This is one of the most underrated things, and is a theme in the book as well. So yes, I would recommend asking lots of questions. That's a great tip. And another one from Jacob, don't give up on communications that don't yield the desire to do everything let me just read that again. Don't give up on communication and don't yield to the desire to do everything yourself. Great suggestion, Jacob. I'm a people pleaser, so very much understand that. Yes, asking questions does lean into this comment as well. Learn from other people. There's a great opportunity there as well. So some other kind of more general tips: clear and concise, active listening, using the right tools. Communication is not always one-to-one in person. Meet the people where they're at, especially as you're moving into a new role. Don't try and don't try and push against the, sea or whatever you want to say. Move to where they're at. A lot of people use emails or use an internal comms tool like Slack or like phone calls, depending on what industry you're in. Work out what that is really quickly and use that to your advantage. Non-verbal communications, we kind of just covered that with faces. Setting clear expectations, follow up and say thank you, I think is something that is overlooked as well. A lot of the time when you're having those one-to-one conversations, whether that be at a big networking event or, meeting a new person or interviewing or whatever that is, the relationship is often built actually after that conversation. That person might be having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people in that environment. How do you keep building that relationship and keep that going? I would say the follow-up, asking more questions. I can see a question there from Jake. What are good questions to ask? Depends what they're talking about. I think they need to be really thoughtful. What do you want to get out of the conversation? I would ask, thought-provoking questions, not yes or no, but do your research and work out what are they an expert in, and what do you want to get out of them. If you don't know what questions to ask, maybe a hack is ask ChatGPT. Go ask AI or whatever your preferred AI tool is. Some questions do this. I know people do this for interviewing as well. There's lots of suggestions on questions to ask through that way. Yes, open-ended questions versus closed questions. That's a brilliant way to summarize that. And just double checking your comms is probably the last thing that I wanted to call out. I type very quickly. I'm a product of my generation with auto text, auto predictor. Not everything spell checks the way you want it to. It does it differently when you're iMessaging on your phone versus when you're using a work laptop. That was a key learning for me. Have a read of your conversations. There's like improved writing features if you want to keep leaning into the AI trend. But how can, your communications, are they in the right place? What are you trying to get out of them? Is it clear and concise? And is it polite and punctual? I would say is how to set up your conversation for success. All right, moving quickly because I know I feel like time is flying by. Networking, I'm not sure what your different networking styles are. There's in-person, there's Meetup. I would recommend jumping on meetup.com. If you haven't used it before, there's a lot of different meetup groups. You can set up a free account on there. If it tries to make you pay for it, just click on the logo and it'll go away and it'll show you all the different meetup groups. Have a look at meetup.com and have a search of what groups are happening. And don't be, just because you're a grad doesn't mean you can't go to a more senior event either. There's lots of opportunities to meet new people and leaders. Even if you don't understand 20% of the conversation that happens at these groups, you might understand 80% or vice versa. You start to learn more and more. The more exposed you are to these different people, the more you start to learn the lingo, the more you start to meet these people and grow your networks. And the other thing is, don't be scared to go to these by yourself. It can feel terribly daunting to go to a meetup group by yourself, but as you kind of do it more and more, you'll find that it gets easier. I guess it's like going to the gym. You can't, the first time you go, it kind of sucks a little bit, but then, you build up that muscle and then you start to enjoy it. You start to enjoy meeting different people. If meeting people face to face isn't your jam, you can try lots of other social media community pages. There's Facebook groups or through your unis, I'm sure there's a lot of community groups. But another thing that I think isn't probably talked about enough, and there's a few people that talk about this on TikTok and Instagram, is use the business networks on your other social media outside of LinkedIn, or even on LinkedIn with the top voices as well. If there's people on those platforms that you are engaging with their content, you enjoy watching their stuff, comment on it, and you can reach out to them. You might get a few no's, but you might get a yes. Ask them questions again about their content, how they built their network, for example, might be a good question to ask, and continue to build that relationship with them. It might end up in a mentoring relationship. It might end up in a coffee catch up. It might end up in a quick phone call or videos back and forth or just a few messages. And you'll find that as you build your network with these more influential people, your feed will be kind of more curated to learning, which I found has been extremely helpful. To jump back onto LinkedIn, you can curate your feed to be value add to you. If their content on your LinkedIn feed is not teaching you anything, just keep scrolling past it and make sure to engage with content that is engaging and helpful to you. And make sure when you're looking through your network connections or reaching out to people or following people on LinkedIn, that they're people that are going to really add value to what you're trying to do or what you're trying to learn. I can see a question from I can see a few questions. I'm going to come back to those because I think they're bigger ones to dive into. So yeah, that's kind of networking, a couple of different opportunities to reach out through different channels. Maybe a take-home task here is finding someone to reach out to one-to-one on a social media channel, be it a top LinkedIn voice, someone on TikTok or someone on Instagram, or even a few people, and reach out to them, ask them a question. Say thank you for sharing your content, because these people invest a lot of time in sharing their content. Anyone who shares content or produces content, or even if you've made a reel yourself before, you know that it takes a lot of time to develop that. And that in Australia, they don't get paid for views like a lot of people do in America. They get paid for brand deals. So they have to put in a lot of legwork before they start to yield any sort of return. Cool. Social media. I'm sure you all have it. I have it. I love social media. A learning or observation that I've had with a lot of different people in particular younger generations and kind of early careers is just being aware of what's online. I am not someone that thinks all profiles need to be on private or you need to moderate your content, but just make sure you're comfortable with whatever's on your Instagram, if it's public, that you're comfortable with your boss seeing it and you're comfortable if there was a poster of that photo on the wall at work, like you're cool with it. If you're not, private, archive it, whatever you want to do, but just be very aware that your hiring managers are not just looking at your LinkedIn profiles, they're looking you up on Instagram. And so are your new colleagues. And they're looking you up on Facebook. If you have any embarrassing old Twitter profiles with crazy views, if you're comfortable with that, cool, you do you. But if you're not comfortable with that and that's not that's not how you want to show up at work, just have some thought around how you can maybe moderate that content. You can also just Google yourself and see what comes up. I have a year 6 photo of myself with my buddy that comes up when you Google me. So I think I've hidden that now. That pulled through from an old Instagram account from when I was in year 7, I think, or year 6. So yeah, you can definitely learn a bit from Googling yourself too. Some stats around that in case you wanted to know. I think one I wanted to highlight and jump into in particular is LinkedIn users with a complete profile are 40 times more likely to receive job opportunities through the platform. There is no expectation for you to be posting on LinkedIn all the time. Like, you do not have to be an influencer on there. You don't have to be posting every week. Is there benefit in doing that? Yes. Do you need to be doing that? Probably not. But building your profile to be complete and a kind of digital CV is incredibly important because, as I'm sure most of you know, when you go through the when you've gone through recruitment processes on LinkedIn, there's little bots that climb all over your profile, and the more keywords there are and the more complete and accurate and aligned your LinkedIn profile is to a job, is the higher you rank in the recruiter version of LinkedIn. So I thought I could do a quick demo on that on LinkedIn and how I've set up my profile. If you want to drop your LinkedIn's in the chat, you're more than welcome to connect with each other. Feel free to add in also who you're looking to connect with to make sure that you're making relevant connections within the group. But I'll just jump into LinkedIn. You just give me a moment. Another maybe mention is it's not worth paying for premium. Do not fall into that. That is really expensive. I only have that little logo because my work pays for it. So take the free trial, take the insights, cool. Don't pay for it. It doesn't make any difference in my experience anyway. So banner photo, make sure you have a photo, especially if you're doing in-person interviews, they're looking for you. Make sure it's clear. You don't have sunnies on and a hat. You're not in a group of people. Some people have like family photos, wedding photos. If it's not clear that it's you, it's the wrong photo. Try again. You can use your phone to do a selfie on those as well. I just took that on portrait mode and flipped my phone around. Use good lighting. You guys all probably know how to take a selfie, preaching to the choir here. Banners, if you want to add them in, I don't really like when they're like self-promo up here, but you do you. I think mine was a beach before the work one, so up to you. One I think a lot of people get wrong is this about section. It doesn't need to be a novel. How do you write about yourself? It's really hard. Writing about yourself is so uncomfortable. So I did a quick AI exercise and I found some good LinkedIn profile summaries. This is the article. I'm going to pop it in the chat. And what you can do is paste into ChatGPT or into Rovo when you've got some time to, oh, hang on. My chat window is very, very small. I'm sorry. Yeah, paste in a prompt. So mine is write in a LinkedIn summary for me in first person. Very important. From my LinkedIn profile, insert your LinkedIn profile. And best practice tips from this article, which I will share in the chat now. Feel free to have a read of the article as well when you've got some time. Highlights from the article is that it shouldn't be too long and it needs to be in first person. I won't go through the chat now, but it generated this lovely long I don't know, a bit generic response from me. I gave some feedback to Rovo, which is our Atlassian agent chatbot, changed to UK English, important, and condense a little bit. So this is the response that it came through. Reading it just quickly, I mean, there's probably a couple of sentences like that feels a bit fluffy for me. So you can remove it, add emojis, whatever you want to do. You can add something personal. How do you build a relationship with someone as you're reaching out to them, or give them the opportunity to reach out to you? Is you can add in something personal. So you'll see on my LinkedIn, can't remember what it is. It's, I'm interested in marketing and projects. Reach out to say hello. If I was going to improve this summary, which I haven't in a while, I'd probably add that I have 2 cattle dogs and I like going for walks. So when people reach out to me, they can talk about my dogs. I will talk about my dogs all day. And I would definitely respond to a message that has any mention of dogs in it. So that's probably a LinkedIn tip. Another one that I really like that I think is overlooked is this featured section. You can add this by going to add profile section, and then there's a featured button in there. You can add in post links, articles, anything that you've worked on. When you're posting on LinkedIn, I've always found that people love people and people love dogs, to my point before. If you're posting anything with people or animals in it, it will perform a lot better than generic content. But yeah, that's about it, really. In your experience, have a think about the keywords that are in your jobs that you're applying for if you're job seeking at the moment. In my summary, for example, a lot of things that come up in marketing is events, paid and organic socials, websites, different types of content. So make sure that those words that are in the job ads are also in your LinkedIn profile, just like you would review on your CV. You can also ask AI to clarify any of those questions. So that's about it on LinkedIn. You can also add in these links if that's helpful. I don't feel like there's a lot of merit in writing articles, in getting reviews or recommendations. If you want to do it, you can do it. That would probably be like bonus points. But yeah, there's lots of different things that you can add in on there. So yeah, that's a bit of a quick LinkedIn 101. I will pause there, and I know that there's lots of questions and I want to make sure that we have time for that. So perhaps we can jump into that, James, now that I've talked everyone's ear off for the last half an hour.
I think you've done it perfectly. I can summarize some of these questions that are coming through. Essentially, what do you think is, or what are some tips that you might have to be reaching out to people on LinkedIn, whether it be managers or someone within recruitment, something like this, but that comes across effectively as well as authentically, that you could kind of garner a response from them?
Yeah, great question. I think being considerate in how you're asking and when you're asking, I think do your research, find out what that person's specialty is, and what you're trying to get out of it. So when you're reaching out to them, you can send a note when you're connecting. I find sometimes it's better to connect or follow with them and then actually comment on some of their content first, so they start to recognize your name perhaps a little bit. And then when you do reach out, they're a bit more responsive, would be my tip there. Did I answer the full question there?
Yeah.
Or screen as you were asking?
No, I think that sounds pretty good. Another one that's kind of coming through is like, essentially, how can we start to utilize these communication types that we've kind of been assigned as a strength, or maybe even look at it as an area for growth in terms of like communicating with others, other people that we work with already, or people that we want to start working with?
Great question. I think it's awareness is probably the biggest tool here. Around, for example, if people are asking questions and it's coming off critical, that's not personal. They're not trying to, personally attack you or something like that. I would always assume positive intent when people are trying to communicate with you and sharing information. So yeah, I would use the awareness of it as a enabler. And then as you work with people more, then maybe you can put them in one of these buckets and work out how they like to be collaborated with. My manager, for example, she is a straight shooter. Like, there is no fluff, no small talk. When I meet her in person, she can chat all day. But when we're working, she wants to know what's the plan, how we're going to execute it. It's clear, concise, and then she'll absolutely slam me with questions. That's nothing to do with the quality of my work. That's just her working style, which we had a big chat about because I was quite aware of.
Remember, everyone, feel free to keep these questions coming through. And I'm sure when you're having those conversations with your manager, there might be a mix of like open and closed questions, which were kind of brought up earlier in the chat. Another question that we have here is, what's something that you wish that you know now that you wish that you had known as a new graduate?
Um, I think my new grad journey was quite different to a lot of people. I don't know. I feel like now most people, correct me if I'm wrong, everyone, like you probably have a lot more opportunities to network now than what we did in the first year of COVID, which is when I finished uni. I don't think anyone really knew how to build networks. Or do virtual events when I was coming out of uni. It was the last 6 months, which I think is the most important. So I think I've learned a lot about networking since then. I would say just put your hand up for lots of different things. Don't get that imposter syndrome or just try and move through it. And the other thing is just ask if you're not comfortable with something or you don't understand it, just ask the question about why. And it doesn't have to be like work orientated. It can be a behavior that you're asking, why is someone doing this, or how you're feeling about it. Of course, approach that with empathy as well. You don't know what's going on with someone. Sorry, my dogs are wrestling in the background if that's coming through for anyone.
It sounds.
um I think just ask if it's work related, ask if it's not work related, or perhaps not work related if it's behavioral. Seek to learn more.
Cool. I'm just keeping in mind on an eye, sorry, on the time. I've got one here that I think expands upon what Dom was talking about in his keynote speech, especially about an exploratory mindset. So someone's considering about whether they return home to start a new business or continue building what they've already got here. So, and I think what they're interested in is from your from the experience in your previous roles, what area in your field do you think has the most untapped potential for growth in the next few years?
It has to be AI. Like I know that you probably hear it all the time, but I was speaking, like I heard Anu, who she's amazing if you don't follow her on socials. She's up the president of Atlassian. So she leads our product and design teams. She's I think Indian by heritage, but she lives over in this in San Francisco, and she puts AI very beautifully. We get asked at Atlassian a lot if AI is replacing graduate level roles, and it's not purely, and a huge part of this reason is like grads are the AI experts. Like young people know how to use AI a lot better than our senior leaders do. If you are upskilling in AI and you can use it to your advantage, it's amazing how much faster you can work. Even people that sit at the same leveling, for example, as me and don't use AI versus those that do, the output's significantly different. I think my role maybe 2 roles ago was quite similar to the one I'm in now, except the scope of the role was a lot smaller. I only worked for a company of about 300 people rather than Atlassian's over 13,000 people. But I was doing a lot more kind of hands-on work with the 300 people versus the 13,000 people, because I know how to use AI to automate a lot of those tasks or get me started with things. So that's probably the first one. Industry-wise, I think like new tech's always good. I would be like finger on the pulse on that. AI is just one of those that, there's always different trends. I think being aware of what's a trend and what's here to stay, like Web3 was probably the one before this. Being aware of how to kind of speak about those and how to leverage that technology would be probably where to stay close to. I think education tech's probably interesting. I think I'd like to learn more about that personally, but yeah.
Still being cognizant of time. What should people in their first year of university be looking for in terms of the job market?
Any experience.
And
like I worked lots of different roles. I worked for like a regional show at one point doing their marketing. Like I was marketing ducks dancing. I'm not kidding. I did Newcastle show, which was lots of fun, and like we dropped a crate from a helicopter onto Newcastle Beach, like all sorts of random stuff. I think I dressed up as a duck myself and rode down the main drag in Newcastle on a push bike with a bag of kale. Like just jump into it, give any opportunity a go. So I went from that to working in like a civil and structural engineering marketing assistant, office assistant, hybrid kind of role. Anything you can get. Like do not be a job snob. When you're trying to get experience. There's a lot of different opportunities. Find where you can apply what you're doing in your everyday role at the moment. But I think that people that struggle the most are people who haven't worked and then come out of uni and expect to get a graduate role full time in their field when they have no hands-on experience. Like family, friends, businesses, trial with different stuffs like makeup businesses to play with. Meet people that are doing that, use your network, not just your network, everyone you know's network.